Welcome to MIA. I'm glad to be joining you from the studio office as we close out the unhinged but exciting year that 2021 was. This month saw the release of the Aged Care Industry Workforce Council Report, which has studied workforce movement since 2009. And the department released their ACFI monitoring report, which we'll also cover. We saw a big jump in delivered care minutes across the sectors, and there are signs of recovery as admissions have started to pick back up with occupied bed days coming back from their lows achieved last month. We'll explore this and more in Mirus Industry Analysis, December edition. Well, November continued to see gains across all three provider cohorts, with the not-for-profits closing in on the 190 ADS and private operators seeking the $200 ADS. Total claiming activity for the month saw a slight retreat, except for the not-for-profit providers. Voluntary ACFI claiming, or the funding uplifts, came backwards across all cohorts, with the private providers below the 3% voluntary mark. With the current distribution of the 64 ACFI payment outcomes achieved across the industry, we can now see clustering of the claims at the top end of the payment system. This is one of the reasons why the department feels the ACFI is no longer fit for purpose for our industry. Now, with the clustering of the claiming outcomes in Medicare at the top end, it means the percentage of claims which can be addressed through voluntary submissions is diminishing. Therefore, we saw a further reduction of the portion of aged claims that are greater than 12 months old, and excluding the high cohort, now dropped to only 25% for the private operators. Complex healthcare claiming across both procedures that we monitor increased slightly after its retraction last month. The private operators now have over 63% of their claims in Medicare lodged with a 4B pain management outcome attributed to it. This month, the department has released the ACFI monitoring report with insights between July 2020 and 2021. And it appears that size and location has a direct correlation to your revenue. Now, at present, a 70-bed provider is nearly 9% worse off in ACFI subsidies when compared to a 1,000-bed provider. And it gets worse if you're a sub 40-bed provider, achieving nearly 16% less revenue than the larger providers. Now, the news isn't better when looking at locations of services, with remote providers achieving nearly 20% less in ACFI-related subsidies than major city operators. The good news is the new ANAC mechanism will address these funding variances with increased payment weightings adjusted to a RAC service location. Now, these are all defined by the modified Monash model, and there's also an adjusted weighting for providers who redirect their admission strategies to specialize in managing a homeless cohort of residents. Now, for some providers, the arrival of ANAC can't come soon enough. Now, occupancy levels showed signs of recovery over November for the not-for-profit providers. However, that did not play out for the private providers. It appears occupancy levels are now on the recovery after their 12-month low reported last month. And the competitive race to acquire new residents, consumers, appears to be heating up, with private and not-for-profits within 2 percentage points of each other in admissions. Now, with the residents entering care, we saw a jump in the private operators' achievement of their ACFI scores of 190 ADS at admission. It was a material jump of over $3 from last month. And as the ACFI rules prevent submission within 28 days of entry, these residents would have been admitted into their services up to 60 days ago, and their ACFI claims are now just being reported. And with the admission movements between new entry and departed residents, we saw the private operators open slightly, which indicates they departed a lot of high-funded ACFI claims over the month. And with that, our industry samples saw just over 5,000 new permanent entries over the month of November, with just over half of those going to the not-for-profits. Respite bed days used in November also showed a favoring to the not-for-profits, who picked up nearly an additional 12,000 bed days from the October period. And lastly, we saw a marked decline in new admissions from hospital across the board. November saw all three cohorts align to the circa 10% of admissions originating from hospitals, with the not-for-profits declining over 9% from the previous month. Now, this month saw a release of the Aged Care Industry Workforce Council Report, which analyzed aged care employees between 2009 and 2019. While turnover in aged care remains a key issue, the report shows many more aged care workers believe the sector is successful at retaining their quality of staff than at the beginning of the study in 2009. Now, the top motivators to work in this sector included resident and client interaction, good location, and a good reputation of their provider. Conversely, though, the top 4 reasons why aged care employees left over that 10 years are retirement, low pay, poor management, and the excessive workload. And to quote organizational psychologist Adam Grant, if work is exhausting people to the point that they're using their time off to recover, you might have a burnout culture. Healthy organizations don't leave people drained in the first place. So as the sector continues to get their head around the mandatory care minute average, and that will be imposed from October of 2023, we saw our care minute average jump nearly 22% this month to achieve 145 minutes of direct care on a per resident per day basis. This past month, the RN minutes jumped nearly 30% to 22 minutes of direct resident care, with nursing agency usage dropping 25%. And the allied healthcare staff saw a significant jump, over 42% to be exact, from the previous month. And this is indicating that the relationship with physios and OTs are still in favor as we march towards the ANAC changeover in October of next year. Thank you for joining us today. From all of us at Mirus Australia, we hope you and your loved ones and families have a safe and a wonderful holiday period. I'm Rob Covino, and this has been Mirus Industry Analysis, December edition.